Hi, everyone. It's Carol Williams with Williams Immigration, and we are back for another Monday morning edition of Beyond the Soundbite, where we talk about all things U.S. immigration. So, I like to dive right in without a whole lot of fanfare. Today, we're going to talk about a lot of things that deal with the Department of State and the consulates. So, the first thing I want to talk about is visa revalidation, and they are supposed to be bringing it back, perhaps in the fall of this year. We don't have an exact date yet, but visa revalidation will be a way for individuals in H&L status who are trying to extend their status and ordinarily would need to leave the US, pick up a visa, and then come back in. It's a way for them to obtain their visa while not leaving the United States. They would essentially file the visa application with the Department of State directly here in the United States, send their passport in, and then once the application is processed, they would get their passport back with the visa in it. So this is not new. Way back when I started practicing, roughly 25 years ago, visa revalidation was a thing. It was a normal thing, and we used to do it all the time for our clients. And then they did away with it. So they are now looking at bringing it back on a very limited basis. So we're hoping around fall of this year, we will see that back and in action. But again, it's not for new visa applicants. It's only going to be for extensions. And right now they're only looking at using it for H's and L's. They are hoping to expand the program next year in 2024, and they may include other visa categories in that expansion. We're, of course, not sure yet, so I will keep you all updated on that. But visa revalidation, just so that we're clear, it's really a way and a mechanism to help reduce the backlog at the consulates overseas. So hopefully we will see this program, this pilot program started in the fall of this year, which would be in a couple of months, as well as expanded in 2024, thus alleviating some of the backlog that we're seeing and lengthy times for some individuals from some countries to obtain visas overseas. The next thing I want to talk about are immigrant visa wait times. As of right now, there's no place for us to go online and say, oh, the consulate in X country is taking Y amount of time right now, on average, an estimate to process immigrant visa applications. And so an immigrant visa application is really, you can also think of that as sort of your green card application. It's for individuals that are applying for a green card or lawful permanent residence while they're outside of the United States. Right now, we don't have access to post-specific processing times. So Department of State, who, as we know, oversees all of the consulates worldwide, is working on providing a way for us to see consulate-specific or post-specific immigrant visa processing times online. So that would be such a welcome change than what we have now. That is a question I get often from my clients when we are trying to figure out whether or not adjustment of status in the US or consular processing is best for them and their particular situation. And the question always is, well, what's the processing of an adjustment of status versus the processing time of, an immigrant visa at a consulate? So hopefully we'll get that program from them, that capability, that technology from Department of State up and running fairly quickly. They didn't really give us an upcoming date on that, but it is something that they are currently working on. So I, for one, am super excited about that. It'll really help my clients make some really good decisions when we are talking strategy. The next thing I want to talk about with you this lovely Monday morning is interview waivers. So right now there is a policy in place at all consulates across the world where some individuals do not have to have an interview in order to obtain a visa. This does not apply to first-time visa applicants. It is typically going to be an extension or someone that has already received a visa from that same consulate, so that the consulate, kind of knows who you are, knows your documents, that sort of thing. But again, it is a discretionary policy that is out there, but it is a policy that has certainly freed up space and time and slots for individuals who do need to go into the consulate for their interviews. So again, this has been another backlog reduction policy within the Department of State for the consulate. So that discretionary policy is set to end at the end of this year, December 31st, 2023. So if it ends at the end of this year, it means that everybody goes back to meeting and interview. So at the present time, Department of State is looking at whether or not that policy is going to be extended. So they are working closely with Department of Homeland Security to see how and if that policy will be extended. If it is, I will certainly let you know. If it's not, I will let you know that as well. But if it is extended, it will certainly alleviate some of the problems that we've seen with the backlogs and people getting their visas in time for their specific events that they need to be at in the US. So I'll keep you updated on that. And the last thing I wanted to talk to y'all about this morning, specifically coming out of and really impacting consulates, are e-visas for Portugal. So E1 and E2s, those are our treaty traders and our treaty investors. Those are individuals that are, spending money and investing in companies, starting companies. And because there is a treaty between that country and the US, they're able to come into the US based on that treaty and work for specific, work for those specific investor type businesses. So Portugal, there is the Amigos Act. It allows for E1 and E2s for individuals that are from Portugal if, this is a big if the Portuguese government provides similar non-immigrant investor status to U.S. nationals. So the act is out there. So right now we are waiting for the analysis to be done as to whether or not the Portuguese government, or Portugal, the government in Portugal provides the same opportunities for U.S. citizens going the other way, wanting to invest in Portugal. So just think of it as, the act is there, but we're waiting on that analysis to be done. That analysis could take a couple months, might take a year, but that analysis has to be done before we can actually start processing those E1s and E2s coming out of Portugal. So I will definitely keep you updated on that. The last thing I want to give y'all is another national interest waiver tip. So national interest waiver is a second preference category for green cards for individuals that would like to stay and live in the United States indefinitely with a green card. Typically, those individuals are going to have a master's degree or higher in their education. If they don't, they'll have to show that they have exceptional ability within their chosen career field. They will also need to show that their proposed career endeavor has both substantial merit and national importance to the United States. Second, they'll need to show that as an individual, this person is well positioned to carry out their role and their position that has substantial merit and national importance after the green card is issued, and that on balance, number 3, it is beneficial for the United States to waive the usual requirements when applying for a green card. And those usual requirements are that you have an employer that is sponsoring you and that you go through the labor certification process. And part of that labor certification process is advertising for available U.S. citizens. So that's sort of the national interest waiver category in a very quick nutshell. But the tip that I have for you today is that the national interest waiver category is really forward focused, and it's focused on how you as an individual can help the United States. So think of it as a very forward thinking concept that just because you have been super successful in your career in the past, that is nice and that is super helpful. But the national interest waiver wants to see, how are you going to take your past success and keep it going and continue to help the United States? How are you going to continue to be of substantial merit and national importance after the green card is issued? So think about that when you are thinking about a national interest waiver, and whether or not you think you qualify. If you want to talk about whether or not you qualify, we're more than happy to get a consultation on the books for you and talk about that. So feel free to give our office a call, 954-903-1337. And we are happy to talk about national interest waiver or any of the things that are going on right now with the U.S. consulates and how those may or may not impact you. Have a wonderful rest of your Monday and a